Well, I guess we'll get started. My name's Pat Lamson, and I'm on the Murphy's Library Board. And we just want to welcome you. We're so grateful you're here to hear these wonderful children's authors talking about their experience as writers. And I'm going to give a little background. This is Monika Rose. She's the head of the Manzanita Writers Group, Writers Press, I should say, in Murphy's. And it's a nonprofit literary organization. She's published several anthologies and literary magazines. Her book of poems, River by the Glass, will soon be a novel, a collection of short fiction, a collection of essays, and 3 more children's books. Her latest is Moths on a Limb, a children's book for grades 3 to 6, and that'll be released in July, with 2 more children's books released in 2025. So she's busy. Monika was an adjunct, or is an adjunct associate professor of English at San Joaquin Delta College and a retired high school teacher for 30 years. She edits and publishes books in all genres and teaches writing workshops. Her inspiration for children's books stems from early adventures with her children, a love of nature, and exploring the curiosities and puzzles in life that keep her inner child alive. And we also have Kristin Fulton, and she is the author of middle grade novels, Snake Food and The Haunting, A Fable for All Ages, Henry Bingle's Transformation, a picture book, Is That a Hat?, a 2-act play for children, also been busy, Christmas in July, and the novel Sisters of the Soul. When she isn't writing, she plays her baritone ukulele, creates mixed media art, and enjoys a good hike. So, so this is Kristin. She's going to talk too. Then we also have Kathy right here, Boyd Fellure. Did I pronounce that right? Okay. She's a children's author and a novelist who lives in the foothills of California. She guest speaks, teaches at writers' conferences, and coaches and critiques aspiring writers to become authors. She's written the Blake Sisters Lake Tahoe Adventure Series, Summer Story, When the Birdies Come to Tea, Winter Story, Mr. Snowman Ate Our Picnic Lunch, Autumn Story, Bear Cub Adventure, one of these titles, Spring Story, Nana's Tin of Buttons. So she will be sharing with us also. And I just want to thank you for being here. So I'm going to let Monika take over.
Well, I think we have about an hour and we want to leave time for questions too. So be thinking as we're talking about what you'd like to ask us. I'm wearing 2 hats today. I'm wearing my editor and publisher hat and also my writer hat. So I might be mixing things up a little bit, but when we talk about the process of how to get your book done, so I have a wealth of knowledge. I just spent 3 hours yesterday with somebody who's working on a children's book and getting her prepared, and she doesn't have her illustrations done yet. So it's quite a process that you need to think ahead. I was at a conference, the San Francisco Writers Conference recently, several children's panel workshops, and they were all saying it's a 5-year process. That's once you have an agent. Once you obtain an agent, which is very difficult. Andrea Brown Agency is the best in the country. She's on the West Coast. She's a wonderful person. If you can get her as an agent, it's good. It's really good. I sat with her at lunch and missed an opportunity when I didn't send my stuff in to her. So, that's one way to go. Another way to go is if you don't want to wait, you'd like to get your work out there, is self-publish. It's difficult when you don't have any maybe guidance with it. So if you have friends who have done it and you have some guidance mentors to help you through it. But our press is a nonprofit press, and we help authors through whatever they want to do. If they just want us to help edit, that's fine. If you want ideas, that's fine. Help you publish and do it yourself. And we also publish all genres. So we're a full service publisher. I wanted to talk a little bit about your dream and your goal as a writer. I started as a poet and wrote a lot of poetry over the years, and it never left me in all the writing I do. So whatever genre you like to write, whatever love you have, whether it's nonfiction, fiction, memoir, whatever you're writing, there's always room for a children's book in there somewhere. And the children's books, so I have my poetry book I set out when we do our vendor sales and things, and people, okay, poetry, fine, is not a big seller. It's not there, I'm not going to make a lot of money on my poetry. But they love children's books. These are the books that sell, and so they're also the books, the physical books that are left, and people appreciate physical books this way. So many people, reading ebooks, even kids now, the younger generation, on their tablets and their phones, even as young as two years old, are looking at ebooks in this format. So, but there's nothing like a book, and you open it up, and this one's kind of big. I hadn't realized it's expensive when you go large like this. So, and you pay for it yourself, it's expensive this way, but it really stands out in a crowd, and it's, anyway, when you start thinking about your project and thinking ahead, what is your goal for kids? What is the gift you're going to give to them? You want to think, what is your expertise that you're going to be sharing with them? Your world wisdom. But don't do it as an adult. Go back, crawl into your child self. Go back, and the wonderment that you had for little things, like a question. I know Linda Torin, my friend, said, you know what a little kindergartner said to me once? She was upside down on a bar, and she said, why is the sky bluer when you're upside down? As a child, we'd take these long drives up into the mountains, and I always noticed that the left side of the road looked different from the right side of the road. I don't know why. It was more pleasant. It was the happy side. Now, I don't know if you guys ever noticed stuff like this as a kid. You do, but you forgot. You forgot it. So hang around kids and capture some of the little wonderments that they come up with, and see if you can instill that into a character. And your character you need to have some conflict resolution. There needs to be a growth in character over time in your book. I won't read this one to you, but this is an early reader, and I'll just read a couple of pages so you get the idea. So this goes back to, I remember, kind of parody in the first page of Dick and Jane, remember? Look, one book on my bed, 2 books, 3 books, okay? So there's a pattern there. Bumps in my bed. 1 car, 2 cars, 3 cars. So you want to set up a pattern. You also want to use colors, numbers, things that they're going to learn in a series, and sounds. What is that lump under my pillow? 1 teddy, 2 Freddies, 3 spaghettis. And what I did here is each ending, there's a Y, this one ends with IES, 1 teddy, 2 Freddies with a plural, 3 spaghettis, but there's no E on the end of spaghetti. So they're learning different kinds of plurals. So for me, education's really important for children, and it's key. And so at the back of the book, I have some little exercises. They're fun pages, comprehension. So this is a nice thing to do for homeschooling. They have to go back. For instance, there are several things that the little boy finds under his covers. There's really a dangerous time, too. There's a little danger in here. One little girl said, "That scared me," something under the covers, and so he gets eaten by the covers, so that's a little bit frightening. So put a little bit of danger in there, something they have to overcome, something that might scare them a little bit that they overcome, for themselves. So anyway, that's a little bit about maybe some things to think about for your book. I wanted to do a quick little plug for Michelle Rucco. She couldn't be here today, but she'll be at the farmer's market tomorrow, and you can talk to her all about it. And what she did was a nonfiction book on the farmer's market, trying to instill in children a love for growing vegetables and farm, And then she has this lovely little book. Now, she used photographs, many of them of Calaveras growing kids and materials. So you can do that in a nonfiction book. Okay. So anyway, be thinking about a nonfiction book maybe that you have under your belt that you'd like to produce. So again, I want to just reiterate, think like a child, have a crisis resolution situation, page turning each time, what's going to make them turn to the next page. You want to think about it just like writing a novel in a way. Character building and be consistent. I wrote this when I was in my 20s for my kids, and my son said, so my grandchildren were like 4, 5, 6, and he said, so Mom, remember those books you used to read to us when we were kids and we loved them so much? Where are they? I said, they're in a file folder in a drawer, and we'd already published for years, and I didn't even think about it, right? And he said, well, you're going to wait till you have great-grandchildren before you do this? And I said, I could have had a V8. So anyway, so I pulled them out and I worked on them. I had to redo them. I traced my old illustrations because I'm not an artist, really. But, I did okay. I think I did all right. But here's the thing. Go hire an art coach to help you. Why not? If you have some skills, or even if you don't, you want to do your own illustrations, hire a coach to help you. You don't have to have them do the illustrations if you want to do it yourself. Think about it. Many of the illustrations out there are fairly simple. There's that one. What happens is he has breadcrumbs in his bed. He doesn't like it. And so, I had a problem early on. So one painting had green pajamas, another one had purple. And I said, wait a minute, something's wrong here. He didn't change his pajamas. So watch the logic of what you're doing, right? So those are some things to think about. Size. Here's your standard Cat in the Hat children's book. One of these very simple illustrations, really. The smaller the size, like this, the less expensive. If you're doing it yourself, it will be. This is quite expensive, this size. For some reason, it's large, and they have to, the binding, they have to work on that. I didn't do a paperback with it. So that's another thing to think about. You're going to have 3 different formats: an ebook, a hardcover, and a softcover. And maybe some other formats you might want to do. You might want to have some merchandise. Like, did I have my...
It's over there.
It's over there, yeah. A little tote bag or something, or cups, or t-shirts. I was going to do a nightgown, or a little gown, a little dressing gown, or a pajamas kind of thing. You can't do that. It's against the law. So, you have to have special flammable material and all that stuff. So I couldn't. But you can do a t-shirt. So that's something to think about. Right. I have a lot to say, but I'd like to share with everybody. And
Monica, do you want to take questions after each person's done, or just at the end?
Maybe we can just do questions as we go.
Okay.
So does anybody have some questions for me about writing or publishing or editing or anything like that? Yeah.
Like what's how long, how short, what?
Well, for a spine, if you want a spine, this is a hardcover. I think this one was like 50 something pages. So you want to think about that. 48 pages is your typical. This was 50 something pages. It's very thin. Her spine's tiny. So that's something to think about. This one, Cat in the Hat. I love it because these pages are numbered 61 pages. Doesn't look like it's that much, does it? And the paper. You know, the kind of paper you choose, the quality of your color printing. We do Ingram, and we also are working on getting a printer somewhere that we can afford. Most printers are too expensive in the United States. So we can go to China. We've thought about it. I don't like the idea. Yeah, you can maybe get the book for $2. Yeah. But your intellectual property, there's no control. They can take that file and do what they like with it overseas. I'm just not trusting there yet. So I'd rather stay in the United States through Ingram. I mean, that doesn't mean it's not sold, because it is. I think I had a book sold in the UK, one in Australia. It's kind of fun to find people. Yeah.
Monika, when you said like 50 pages, you're talking about front and back. So like 25 actual
exactly.
page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Single page.
Single page. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's something to think about. This is for early readers. I was concerned, would little hands be able to manage this big book? It's kind of, they seem to.
Yeah.
They like it? Yeah. So I'm okay with that. But, I mean, they can also handle these little ones. And you do save a little bit of money yourself if you're printing yourself. Also, I want to say something about illustrations. That's where your biggest cost is in your illustrator. Your illustrator is helping you tell the story. The illustrations are not mirroring what's going on exactly. That illustrator has a vision, and they're adding details that you hadn't even thought about. So your illustrator and you're working together, and they will earn their money, I'm going to tell you, because they've got quite a few illustrations to do. This one, I saved some money because I did it myself, but my next one, this one, Mary Sexton's here. She's my illustrator, Mary. And she did, first I said to her, okay, I just need like maybe 10 color and we can do some black and white sketches. And then she got into it and I saw what she was doing and she came up with new ideas. And I said, oh my gosh, let's use that. Mm-hmm. So we really collaborated quite closely on many of even the storyline. And I just finished editing once again. I mean, I've been sitting on this for a while. I looked at it, I changed things up again. So editing is really important. I realized my designer said, you know, you have 76 that's in this book. And the book's about 83 pages. I had 76 that's. I got to get rid of the that's. So those are kinds of things. Look for repetitions and look for those kinds of changes that you can make. So how much would something like this cost? This project like this with an illustrator? $5,000-$6,000 if you have a couple 100 copies, 300 copies printed with softcover and hardcover. But you want to think like this. Once you have your hard costs paid for, after that you're making a profit. So I tell authors, you sell about 200 books and you'll cover your costs for the most part. So depending on your illustrations and what you pay your illustrator's going to take the bulk of your cost. So anyway, I think I've said quite a bit. So I think
Okay,
There's Kristin. Kristin, you're in Columbia or is North?
I'm in Columbia.
In Columbia. Yeah. So we're representing 3 counties here.
Yeah.
It's great.
Tuolumne, Calaveras, and Amador.
Mhm.
Kathy lives at Ione.
So I have focused mainly, well, actually, I don't have that much of a focus at all. So I have some middle grade and upper grade books, chapter books, novels. And then I have an adult novel, Sisters of the Soul. And this is another one of it's the upper middle grades. This one's an adventure for children. And this one also is sort of an inspirational, kind of clean up your environment type of thing, which would be great in 5th grade civics class. And then I have a picture book right now. And I have another picture book that is being illustrated, and also another middle grade novel that is in a series that comes after Snake Food, and it's called A Dangerously Close Encounter. And I have a plan to get it out in the fall, which is kind of a trick to coordinate everything and have illustrations done. And also I'm going for audiobooks, and that's one of my latest ventures, is that I had somebody who was interested in one of my newsletters. Wow, that was great. And so he got back to me, and he has the Squeaky Cheese production company in San Francisco. And he said, you know, we would love to do one of your books. And I said, well, I don't need to do one of your books. Of course, I have to pay for it. But we're coordinating with the school down in Petaluma, and they're going to do the haunting. And what Monika said about always improving and changing and editing, that is so true. You just can't fall too in love with your own words. You need to be able to say, well, that's a beautiful sentence, yes, but it doesn't go here. No, you know, and just get rid of it when it's superfluous. I'm a big one on less is more. But anyway, so I never really liked the cover of this one. It was my design. And so this is undergoing a new cover. Again, it's expensive. I have a company that's working on it called 100 Covers, and that is going to be come out at the same time the audio book is, which is kind of exciting. This was a silver medal winner, which was nice when I went into the Wishing Shelf Awards. And I will say one of the hardest things about being an author, a self-published author, is promoting. I am a terrible promoter. I'm not a good marketer. And those are things that, being outside my bailiwick or whatever you want to say, I'm not that good at. But I'm trying. And I didn't do the right thing in the beginning. Then the pandemic came along, and I was like, well, okay, I'll just spend my time in an art studio, or I'll write this new book. And meanwhile, moldering on the shelves were these other books that have never gotten out there. And so that's my focus, and I think that's one of the hardest focuses as a self-published person. I established my own publishing company, which is called Broadway Pacific Press, and it sounds great, but it's just my 2 streets. So it's pretty humble yet. And, you know, it's quite a process, and I love the creative side. So the nuts and bolts side, you know, gee, I wish there was more help. Everyone wants money. And that is something that, you know, when you go in to self-publishing, is that every service, every marketer, you have to look for your keywords so that you classify them correctly on Amazon, so a searcher can find, if they type in boys adventure, strong hero, or whatever, that will come up, your book, hopefully somewhere in the thousands of titles that are listed on Amazon, and Amazon is our unless we go out and sell at festivals and book fairs and so on and so forth. Amazon is kind of it for us. I mean, there are other things, but Amazon's the big guy in the room, and so
Yeah, and you need to be careful too because a lot of bookstore retailers, etc., do not like to order from Amazon, so they want to order from Ingram.
right.
Ingram puts your book on Amazon. However, if you go with Ingram and then you want to do your ebook at the same time, which is really convenient, Amazon won't sell that ebook. So you have to go separately for your ebook to Amazon, and it's a mess.
It is kind of fast. But you have to upload and you have to know what you're doing. And sometimes there are glitches that come up. I had a big glitch that came up, which was sort of horrifying, and that was that I had an ebook of Sisters of the Soul that I trusted my designer did the right thing. And I love her dearly, and I'm not trying to blame her, but I am blaming her. She didn't upload it as a flowable text. So I did what's called a stacked promotion. And a stacked promotion is a really good thing to know how to do. And I was glad to go through it, and I'm going to do it again. But what I did, you have all these promotional places, you have to pay them all, right? But you run a promotion, say a free book for one day, one place, or this book, or this or that. Anyway, so I did that, and I had 6,800 people download the ebook. I was so excited. And then guess what I found out? Only a few of them could really read it because it was not on the flowable or reflowable text, whatever they call it, to confuse you. And so it didn't boot up on people's Kindles. And so, you had to have a certain reader. And so I just had to go back and get the same designer to figure out how to do that and say, please don't charge me a second time. But she probably will. And one of the things that was, I'll kick myself for, was that I don't have a Kindle reader. I don't read on Kindle. I like book, and I like to hold it and write in it if I want to and stuff like that. I know they're really convenient on airplanes and on trips, but I just don't have one, and so I never checked. Well, there you go. So marketing, it's really good to have somebody to do it for you if you can, and understand that you will have to pay for everybody, like I'm saying. It's nickels and dimes here and there, and hundreds of dollars here and there, and so there we go. Questions?
I have two questions for you. One is, do you have to do an ebook? Is that an important piece?
I think today's world it is. And it depends. I don't know if it's as important with a children's book. However, it's what everybody does, right? We're on ebook, we're on electronics.
And the second question is, when you write your middle grade books, what do you have to know to make it have the right words, have the right focus? I mean, how did you choose that genre, and how do you know it's right for that age group? Do you have
there are books about grade level vocabulary, but I decided that I was going to take the vocabulary list out of it and provide it as an extra glossary type of thing that people could look in for kids. And so I made my own dictionary to go with it. And what I did with my middle grade books is I decided, well, first of all, I wrote them all and I said, oh my God, I wrote these with adult language. And so I went back and I changed a lot of it. But I didn't want to dumb it down completely. So I left some challenging material and hope that, they have the kind of support and they use that list to look up the words they don't know. And children don't want to be bored. And so I think that's a big thing to think about with a book is when you were a kid, what beguiled you? What did you like to read? What were the things that drew you in, And those are the things kids think now too. A little different, that you might, I don't know. I guess if you were designing video games, you could make a ton of money. Or also animations, that's another big thing. And now they're also doing the books that are graphic books,
novels.
graphic novels, and a lot of kids' books are, some of them are graphic in the kind of the style. So, there are. So, did that answer your question? Okay. Yes.
I have a quick one. So scholastics, when you're talking about marketing, when I used to substitute teach at the elementary level, we would have the scholastics book fair every year. And is that a form of marketing still? I know it was more elementary, but then you do have some elementary school age kids who are awesome readers, so then they would have more of your books rather than, or in addition to the, more appropriate, I guess. That's books. mostly major publishers. You won't, independent publishers don't get into those kinds of things.
But
Very difficult.
they do have them. I remember Jamestown Elementary does have had one a couple of years ago.
I'm glad to hear that maybe it's but
You have to be clever and figure out how to target your market. And I find it easier to target adults, and it's really adults who are buying children's books. So you have to target your adult buyers as well for your children's books. But
and see, that was one of the nice things about the scholastics book, is the kids just gave them what they wanted. And yes, mom and dad gave them the money, but it was just nice to see them go around and be drawn first by the illustrations.
yeah. And it's
Yeah, I just wanted to say that yes, Scholastic Books is very big in Southern California. I just recently moved to Murphy's, and I used to teach every year. Every Scholastic Book Fair, and it goes through the middle schools.
Oh, it does.
we'll have to check into that.
Yeah.
And they still have them.
Yeah, I think because somebody told me in the Jamestown one, he said, we can get in, and then it was the pandemic, and we didn't, they canceled it.
So you can maybe go to the book fair as an independent seller, even though it was a scholastic
Well, I
fair?
think that they were gonna let us in because he was a friend of somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it works in a larger scale.
Okay, I'm Kathy. I would like to ask for hands up who is interested in indie self-publishing as opposed to traditional. Who of you are thinking going, or some of you are thinking both ways? Because that's important to know. These, I wrote my children's books first, but it was to springboard my novels. So, and I did have an agent. Sarah and I had the same agent. I think I had her 7 years for the novels. But I went through Lulu Press because back then, you could have full page, all the full page, beautiful art you wanted. And I will show you my favorite illustration. And I have 2 illustrators. This one, unfortunately, died of breast cancer. This was my first book, When the Birdies Came to Tea. And it actually also has a Lake Tahoe cover, same interior, but the Tahoe people, which is my niche market where I do a lot of marketing. I was just last week up at the Tahoe City Wine Walk. I do it every year. It's my biggest event of the year. They couldn't sell the cute little one that goes in the tea rooms and all the gift shops. And so she flipped through here and goes, see this page? Put this on the front. And it moved like lightning. Marketing is everything. And at first I thought, what does she know? And then I thought, well, she's the one selling the books when I'm not there. So maybe I should listen. And I did. and it is my #1 children's seller, either cover. And now tea rooms have kind of died down. I have these everywhere. But Lulu has a bear cup. This is spring, so the Four Seasons at Lake Tahoe. I picked 1959 to 1969, so they're also of a historical bent. So I recorded, they're fictional. It's story of 6 sisters, the Blake sisters, on the North Shore of Tahoe. Okay, I'm 2 of 8 sisters, but I was informed if I told one truth, I would never be allowed at sister night again. No wine, no board games, nothing. So these are all made up. But there are sisters in it. And then the Sneaky Boys come in because I was reading at a library in Jackson, and one little boy in the front row is getting really upset. And he goes, well, why aren't there any boys with names? Fix that. So libraries and librarians are your best friend, and read. This is my favorite. The porcupine. I mean, her art is just phenomenal. Even though it's bear cub, like she took something like an old photograph to date it the period. We had to do tons of research. And back then, there's a new CO now where I don't know if you can still do, I wanted just gorgeous for the kids. Mr. Beaver and the bear cubs. And actually, I will tell you something else. Research your story. I don't write picture books. These are illustrated storybooks. They're big in stories for ages 4 to 8. Mostly adults buy them. But when I go to the schools, you haven't lived as an author till the first year at the wine walk, this little girl, her dad, I only had 2 or 3 out, and he bought her all of them. And my husband I'm so grateful for him. He took the picture of her opening the book, reading to them, her dad, as they walked away. We live for times like that. She already was in love with it. And one of the stories, there's an apron that I had someone sew. I sew, but I didn't do it. And I almost brought it today. I showed the illustrator the fabric, and a little girl wears it when I read at libraries and go to schools and things.
Do they even know what they are?
Yeah, they know what aprons are. Aprons are in my books.
I mean, honestly, when you think about it, you go to a store and buy an apron easily.
A lot of the moms today are wearing aprons again. I was kind of surprised.
They're more like barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're
But it's the
pretty.
same idea.
They're very pretty. I mean, so research was a lot of work. Going through Lulu, I didn't pay Lulu a penny. I assembled my own team of 4. I'm the author. I found the illustrator. I got the formatter and the editor. You cannot be your own editor. I'm sorry. Even if you're good, you taught English all your life, please get another set of eyes. You will be so happy. And for them, it cost me way less money because they were all just getting started. So my illustrator, after the first one died, the other lady signed on for the other 3 books of the 4 seasons. And the conflict in them, like the Stinky Boys, which now have names. You learn from kids, librarians and libraries, and the kids in those libraries are your best friends. I went and visited so many, I learned so much that would not have been in it. And this one was a totally different story. I thought it was the most beautiful conflict about these kids that saw this the guy that moved next door, and they were following him through the cabins and through all these cool things, and then weird stuff would happen, and then it turns out they think it's a bear cub, but it's a giant black lab that looks like a bear from the back. Well, the ranger I interviewed said, please don't do that. You will have kids everywhere following bear cubs, and you do not want to live with, because where there's baby cubs, there's a mama somewhere. And I was like, it's a beautiful story. It's been edited and everything. And he goes, do you want that on your conscience? I said, oh, no. So I put parents in it, and they do go, the boys show up, that's the conflict. They didn't want the stinky Boy Scouts. they're earning a badge, so they're on the same hike, and all this stuff happens. It's a better story. And I took it back to the ranger, and he goes, "Thank you," because there's a real problem right now with the bears coming out like they've ever used. So you have to take a lot into consideration. You have to be willing to rewrite. Your first draft is not your book. I thought it was with my novel. The very nice gentleman told me no. And so this did springboard my novels. And I have, like I said, a niche market at Tahoe. I do all four shores. All the bookstores have closed. I am very good at marketing for survival. I had no choice. I used to for Monika. I'm on her board now as liaison between our counties, but then she put me on as distribution, and I was her photographer. And I learned so much from small press distribution in Berkeley. Those guys taught me because I would put our books out. And so I learned, listen when they tell you, I'm sorry, it's not moving. If they don't be offended, if they don't want all your books. I have some tours that take the children's. I have some that I forgot the novels are in the car. I kind of sold out last week at Tahoe. I only have 4 left. But the Tahoe trilogy sells real big there, but my New England series, and the next one's coming out in July, Harbor House, they market different. They're different audiences. You have to know, before you get started, know your audience. Librarians can help you with that big time. If you're telling a family story, like this isn't my family story. I grew up going to a Tahoe cabin. I never went camping, fishing. I didn't get to get in a tent because we had a cabin, which I felt I was deprived. No, I wasn't. And this story here, I have a lovely, and then I'll be quiet. I gave it to my Nana for her 90th birthday. I wrote her an essay. She lived to be 100. And she had everything. And so I wrote a story, an essay about what it meant to be growing up at their cabin and what they taught me. So she read the essay and she goes, "Kathy, this is so lovely, but I don't remember it ever happening." And I said, "Yes, it did." You should tell an old lady that. And she's the one that said it should be a book. And so, because I was originally like Monika, poetry and song lyrics. We were stationed in England for years, and I wrote poetry when I went there, and then the song lyrics then. And so, and then I was nonfiction before I switched to fiction. But I will tell you, as a survival, because during COVID I about died as an author. I am not a Zoomie. Everything was, in person. Book signings everywhere, launches down at Baker Street West and Hine & Company. And I will tell you, for me personally, that personal one-on-one contact is huge. I barely Zoomed during COVID. And the marketing has changed drastically. Mm-hmm. And I have had to learn at 68 years old how to change with it. And you do. Because as Monika said, like for the Scholastica, it's mostly out of New York. And right now, traditional New York publishing is in major upheaval.
Yeah, it's in trouble. Publishing industry is in trouble. You guys have to take the reins in your hands and get your project going. Have a child. Once you have, walk up, have one of your children's or friends, children, read through it, and they will help you. I had a little girl, I had the manuscript, and I had her read it, and like that one part, she was really scared where he went under the covers and his legs were sticking out. She goes, "What's going to happen?" But you don't want. She got over it, and then she was smiling again. But I mean, there are things that scare them that we're not aware of, and you want to think about that. What is your aim in the book? My son was a mess. He had all his toys in his bed. So I did take that from, Life Story, but my son does not have red hair. So I wanted him to stand out. So I gave him red hair. But so go back and think of stories that, your kids love too. And it wouldn't hurt to have a model. What books did you love? So, Goodnight Moon, I love Goodnight Moon. So, yeah, my homage to that book, putting the moon in here prominently. The moon, there's a banana in there. The banana also looks like the moon. There are repeated images that are really important in here, symbols. So think about, those kinds of things. Numbers, and there's a sister who's mischievous. She shakes the bed and she's under there and she's doing, so you can have a little bit of that, sibling rivalry, if you like. Little things like, well, he says he's tired, I want to, go to bed, but then there's more things in the bed. There's the banana, the moon. So, bringing those things back. He's got crumbs in the bed. Now I want you to think about sound. So from my poet background, so what else is in my bed? Something terribly else, something horribly else, something just awful. What is that in my bed? Crumbly little crumbs from bread in my bed. Crumbs, crumbs, crumbly little crumbs, ugly little crumbs on my hands and feet, too ugly to eat, old dried out wheat, dry, crumbly, mumbly bread in my bed. They love sounds. Mm-hmm. They love to play and, with words. And so think about that as you're writing your book. If it's nonfiction, you might want to still think about the whimsical nature sometimes of how you're writing.
Okay, I wanted to remember to say one more thing. I use with my illustrators, I call it AA. It's author approval, artist approval. And I would get just regular paper, fold it in half. I've taught everybody through amateur writers. I ran that for 12 years. I'm never going to be the artist. But I would put stick people on there for them. Sometimes I couldn't even interpret that. Okay, but I did my best to show I wanted an airstream. I wanted the girls in the tent and everything, but she did this. See them poking their heads out, which was better. She made it better. So I would give her that folded over just like a little book with all my stick people, and I put kind of where in the story I thought it went. And we didn't move forward because it kind of hit a boom in the beginning. And it was we all have creative license. The author is different than the illustrator. And I wanted to honor both Kathy and Donna. Donna actually ended up doing the pencil sketches and the novels for me too. But without that, once we did that, I said, how about if we do this? Because Kathy was up near Oregon, but Donna was nearby. It made it so much better. I mean, we laugh. We go back and look at them now and we're like, oh my gosh, how did these ever come out of that?
Where do you find illustrators or editors?
Mine was not how you usually do it. You can look up illustrators. They're online and they advertise. Okay. But I was very specifically wanted a certain kind of art for this time period. And so I did my own search. And the first one, I went to school with her in high school for 2 years and we never saw each other again. And she always drew horses. She did murals till the day she died. And she approached me. I heard you're writing books now. We always knew you'd be a writer. How about if I do the first 4 illustrations for you? And so, that we did a 1-page contract. Always have at least a 1-page contract. Just for both of you. And then the other illustrator, one of the women in my amateur fiction writers, recommended her. And she did. She's done, I have my 5th novel's coming out. She did all of them but one when her husband died.
So something to think about is working with your illustrator. Are you going to split the proceeds? Your illustrator is in the lion's share of the work. I mean, when you think about it, they really have. You have a few words and you've got a great little story, but it takes them forever to do these illustrations. They really are worth their weight in gold. You could go to places like DeviantArt, find some young artists, struggling artists, and DeviantArt.com or places like that. There are others. But do you know these people? Can you work one-on-one? My advice is go to the artists you love that you know in our community that you can work closely with and go to their homes and work with them. I mean, this is not, trying to find one out there is risky. You have a personal relationship with your illustrator. But I would also suggest you pay them upfront and outright, because it's too difficult to do the money management on this kind of a thing. The illustrator gets some books to sell, you get some books to sell. You're going to split proceeds on everything. How are you going to do that? Pete the Cat. Take a look. Do some research on what happened with Pete the Cat. Illustrator, writer, big lawsuits. That's horrible. Cute concept.
Really cute.
Yeah, cute concept. They have the videos and go on YouTube and you see Pete the Cat and the music and I love my white shoes. I love my white shoes. All that stuff. And you've got music and merchandise. What happens then, with your illustrator? Do they not get any of that? So something to think about. They keep their rights to their work. They have a right to that. So,
I think 50 split. New York does 60-40.
Yeah.
Illustrator gets 60, author gets 40.
Yeah, of all of your sales.
But mine are more, I have more
That's
words.
difficult. Yeah, that's difficult in sales when you're doing it. It's really, really difficult. It's cleaner if you pay your illustrator, and then they can go out, they can make prints, they can sell their original artwork, they can make extra money where you can't.
My first illustrator used oil on canvas. And I was like, wow, so wherever I went, I took it and I exhibited it for her. And I do an annual literary read, an art thing. And she sold them all over. I take them all over Tahoe. But this, believe it or not, this is chalk on the computer. I don't know what one to show. Here's a little boy with a frog. It's the dad when he was a little boy. And so hers was different. But we found a way to show Donna's. When we had Clark's Corner in Ione, it was just magical. We just lost Baker Street West too. But they kept first rights, that was in writing. But some of these were my photography. And so for ones that they painted from my photograph, I kept 50% of that only illustration. Just the copyright, I never took money for it. Because some of them, it depends. Some of them want to look at something. So I would give photographs of, a tree, whatever. This is actually a photograph that she altered. She combined 2 photographs into one.
Here's an idea that, creative people do is they go to Kickstarter. There's another one called Spot Fund. So we got into Spot Fund. We like it because they don't take as much. I think Kickstarter takes 10%. But it's a fundraising thing, and Kickstarter I think has a limit to time frame, and if you don't make your goal, if you give all the money back, spotfund.org doesn't do that. So that's a good one. So let's say you're a creative person, and I guess you could do, what's the other one? It starts with Patreon. You could do Patreon, but the thing is, what you can do is with your illustrator, you can auction those, or you can use them as gifts. So you have a $250 contributor, they can have that artwork, and then that money goes to your illustrator to pay for illustrations. Or you can work on something like that. So a Kickstarter project is getting help from people that and sending out that are interested in the project. We had people when we did the Butte Fire book. We made our goal. And people gave more money. We didn't even know who they were outside of the community. So they'll go onto Kickstarter and they'll look for projects that they can get behind. So one of the books that we knew that we sold in our gallery was a book about different kinds of endangered species for alligators, or I forgot what creature it was. But what she did was she gave those out as Kickstarter gifts. Every page was an original artwork. And so that's how she funded her book.
What about an editor? How do you find an editor?
You look really good in hard because you need a good editor.
And
Monica's a good editor.
I'm an editor, but we have editors in our press, you know.
They advertise online too all the time, just be careful.
Yeah, well,
There
that's,
are a lot of them.
I bet.
And they can be very expensive.
And if you want, you know, to go to an agent, that's difficult too, to get an agent. But if you have a great creative idea and, you know, sparking interest, like Andrea Brown, her sister lives up here somewhere, I think in Arnold. And so she comes up here sometimes, but she's let a lot of her agency run now by other people. You know, she's older now.
Do a lot of you have money to do that kind of money? Because, you know, that's a lot. $6,000. I didn't pay my illustrators that much. They wanted exposure. And now that Kathy's dead, we hadn't thought about us dying. And she just wanted, we talked before she died, and she said, I don't want any money. She didn't want to transfer her royalties to her family. But instead, she said she wanted me to find someone to give scholarships for art.
Mm-hmm.
And that continues her legacy. Everybody's different. And her, gosh, her canvases are so stunning. And they paint over them, by the way. She didn't like one, she'd just paint over it again. I was shocked. I'm like, how can you do it? It's so beautiful.
So Michelle did her own photography. And for nonfiction, you could think about that. There are programs where you take your photos and, you know, make them into a watercolor, oil, or whatever. Now, are they considered AI? It's kind of a gray area.
It's Photoshop, actually. There's a thing that you can actually
Right.
change the image to
Yeah, there are different programs. Yeah, that'll do it.
one.
This isn't AI though, is it?
No,
Yeah,
no,
so
no, these are her photos. So she has rights over them. So, and she's got permissions from some of the other photos that she didn't take. This is her grandson on the front. Now, I do not like heads cut off. I told her, do you have another one? But it catches your eye. Dismemberment is one of the things that ad people do in their ads to catch the attention of women. As a number one fear of women is dismemberment. So I immediately, you know, no. But it's an interesting, beautiful concept. You know, all of this was designed with a layout designer with what she had. And she had to go get very high resolution photos. Here's you guys.
No.
Number one, if you're going to do this, you save your photos in high resolution. Don't, you know, take photos that have been sent to you over texting or something because it's very small. You need the highest resolution setting that you can on your photos, and then turn them into art too if you'd like to do that. But otherwise, it's very difficult from when, you know, the time it gets printed, it loses its clarity.
Are any of you photographers? I shoot with an Nikon F and I use a lot of that.
You set your setting on your phone, you know, for high. I mean, my Samsung does pretty well, you know. Yeah.
Does everybody have a cell phone?
Yeah.
Different world.
So, any questions for us anymore? We're planning on having a children's authors. Here's my dream. I'd like to have a group of children's authors working together as a group, helping each other, getting advice, working on their projects. It's a lonely business, and I think together, if you form a group and you'd like to do that, I'd love to facilitate it and help. And we do Zoom writer sessions first and third Mondays. It's a regular writers group where your manuscript can, you can run it by other writers. But then we have a memoir group and a poetry group, but we don't have a children's authors group. We could do it by Zoom or in person. So if anybody's interested, let me know. You can sign up, and I didn't get a sign-up sheet, but if you would like to do that, we'd love to facilitate it and help you through the process. In our writers groups and things, we don't charge for that. So you're editing. I believe in that communal process, other people helping you, seeing things that you haven't seen yourself, and get it as clean as you can. Yeah.
Another question. So you're self-publishing, and is your goal to get picked up by a big publishing company?
Once you do this, you won't be.
Okay.
Right out, flat out, you will not be picked up by a big publishing company once you publish self or with an indie publisher. Yeah.
So
But
how do you get your books? I heard you say going to libraries. I heard you say going to fairs.
Instagram, Facebook marketing, X, you can go on different platforms. I'm going to be working on doing a Substack. And so here's the idea. Here's the concept. Is writing articles, and then at the end, it's a subscription, and they get a chapter or they get a piece of the book. And when they're done, when they're finished, or they can get it faster than that. But they pay their subscription for X, and then I give them the book. So Substack takes 5%, and the rest, it's by subscription. So it goes into their email boxes. I can mail them a book if I wanted to and work that in. So there are lots of ways you can market directly. Email marketing is really, really effective.
My former agent called that gold, your email. I was told not to give any of my email away. She was right, actually. It is gold. I'll tell you something, too. I get royalty checks. I get royalty checks from Lulu once a month. I have my own, like she does. My novels are through Book Jacket Press, which is just me. I don't publish anyone else. People ask all the time. And so I get KDP, which used to be Create Space checks that they're automatically deposited into my book account. I have a book account. And I also get from my former literary agency that still has my first novel, The Language of the Lake. They send me a royalty check. They went through White Glove Amazon.
Did you want to add to that?
I'm sorry, I don't understand exactly what you're saying.
A royalty check is how an author gets paid.
No, I understand that, but who are these groups you're talking about?
Oh, well, Lulu Press is who published this.
Okay.
That's who Monica's Press will send checks.
Okay.
You pay royalty checks, right?
What?
You pay.
We do not.
Oh,
We pay authors directly. We take a small percentage, but when Ingram sends us checks for usually it's quite generous. I think she gets, I don't know, it's like $6 to $8 per book or something like that. So when she gets that, we just turn around and we write her a check. So we don't do royalties because a lot of publishers, that's how they make their money. They're going to sell your books, and not pay you anything for a while. They'll pay you a tiny little bit. We don't want to do that. So most of our authors get $6 to $8 straight per book online that they sell on Amazon. So we set the price so that they get most of the money back.
So you're talking about
She has royalties.
whoever you use as a publisher.
right. Lulu has to send you royalties. Books and Such Literary Agency sends me royalties. My own books, Book Jacket Press, I go through KDP, and I get a monthly check. Kindle Publishing, Kindle. And I do have a Kindle. I had to because my agent made me. She made me get a cell phone. She made me get all these things. I never use a Kindle. I do have one. But those go automatically in my account. And then I have to my own business license. And I have my seller's permit.
Okay.
You have to, if that's how you're going to do it, you need to look into that stuff.
So
And then you report your taxes.
So as a press, we carry the author. They have to report their earnings to IRS, the earnings that they make, but we don't govern that.
And then all the
They're
stores that
pretty
sell
much-
your books, they report them.
Yeah, they do. Like we have books, we just added a couple new vendors, and we'd like to, be in all the bookstores in the country, but we could if we did some direct marketing to the librarians. We just don't have the staff to do it. So you can hire a publicist to publicize your book for you. But you're gonna pay at least $4,000 for a publicist.
Honestly, I think a publicist is of more value today than an
Yeah.
agent.
Mhm.
Do you?
Do you have
We're gonna
an
have one
agent?
coming.
How do you get an agent?
I went to writers' conferences between Squaw Valley, where New York came out to the West Coast, and all New York, the agents were there. That's where I met really lovely ones that just got fired. And yeah, and then Mount Herman. At the writers' conferences, like where Monika was in San Francisco, they're there and you have meetings with them. And you pitch them. It's a little scary, but you know.
So what a lot of them are doing, what the big publishers are doing, they're going to China. They're printing their books in China. They're getting pennies on the dollar a book. It's going to cost them. They're charging big bucks. We thought that ebooks, oh yes, the price will get down, right? Remember the big promise?
Yes.
They're just as expensive as paperbacks. So what, what's going on here, right? So they're making big bucks on these books, and when we self-publish, we carry the cost for it, and the publisher carries the cost. But we're not a publisher that goes to China and mass produces these and has a big marketing on it.
And one of the unfortunate things too about quality of the books when they come back from China, they're not very good sometimes. I remember one of my first edition of this, people said, I was reading it on the beach and all of the pages came out and flew away. Oh my goodness. And so certain things, can suffer in quality.
Well, I just want to thank all of you so much for coming and sharing this. It's really interesting. It really is. It's more than writing a book.
Please pick up a card.